So, two contrasts, right? Banu is not Shubhro, Shubhra is not Banu. If you give a same problem to these two guys, they approach the same problem in two different ways, right? One guy is eccentric, the other guy is introvert. Okay? So, same problem, you give the same problem to two different people, the approach is entirely different, results are the same. Now, what I really want you to understand is that, okay, that nuances, right? So there is no one road. So you take two roads, but you still reach the same destination. I want to show you the contrast and understand.
Hi everyone, and amazing insights from Bhanu, for sure. So while Bhanu has actually covered a lot in detail, like how you should structure your account, where creative plays a very important role, but what I'll be discussing about the matter of fact, like how to win with first party data. In today's presentation, we will understand what exactly first party data is, why is it important for D2C businesses and performance marketers like us, and also how to leverage first party data to improve the performance of our ad campaigns. But more importantly, I like to make you guys get comfortable with first party data, because I feel though it's a very new concept, but as performance marketers, we have been playing with data all this while. It's not like we have not been playing with data. So at the end of the day, first party data is just another data set. The only difference here is, earlier this data was getting collected by the ad platforms for us. That's the only difference. They were collecting the data of our data, and they had basically predefined ways of using it within the ad platform. Now, what has happened is they are not doing a great job in collecting the data. Hence, it is on us to make sure that we collect our own data, and hence it is called first party data, and we use it the way we want to. So another difference here is that while Meta and Google, they have predefined ways of playing around with data, but once you control your data, the possibilities are literally limitless. That's the one big advantage you have with first party data. Yeah. So just thought of adding this slide because there have been instances like we've been, and I spoke to a few of the people here. And they all have been like, I've been on Reddit, I've been on LinkedIn, Twitter, just trying to figure out what went wrong with my, I've done ABO, CBO, creative, testing and all. It goes well for a period of time, but suddenly it stalls, like, and I don't know what to do. And it's literally like Ram Bharose, or rather we should say Mark Bharose, you know. Anyhow, jokes apart. So D2C growth definitely has become tougher, right? The CAC is a big problem for us. It is continuously rising. The tracking part is literally broken. We did cover in the morning, the attribution issue. The over-reporting is happening. Shopify says 10 orders. Meta is showing 15 orders. Then the biggest game changer that we were all very much dependent on, the custom and lookalike audiences. They don't seem to work anymore. And over and all, basically all the weapons that we had earlier when we were running these campaigns, they are pretty much gone. So it's more like we are so much dependent on Meta and the Meta AI, how it's being designed for us, that we really don't have an option. And even though we want to figure out what is this black box or this hidden ad algorithm, but somehow we are stuck, right? So how do we fix this? And how do we get out of this mess? It basically starts with controlling our data. We need, and it is a necessity, guys. It's not an option for us. We need to, get our data. We need to own it and use it. So, but first, let's revisit the good old days of D2C growth. Why I thought of putting this slide is because the whole objective here is that you guys need to get comfortable with using first-party data. So, till 2022, as 2021 to, like Vishnu mentioned, all of this was working. We were running multiple parallel campaigns, and we were doing detailed targeting, behavior targeting. What exactly were we doing? We were either using single interest or we were stacking up interest. So again, we were playing with data. We were playing with the available data that Meta was providing us, correct? Then we were building lookalike audiences and custom audiences. How were we building it? We were using 50% video viewers, 75, 90, through play, time spent on the website, right? We were using URLs to build custom audiences. We were using the predefined actions, view content, add to cart, checkout, purchase. if you actually understand, all of this is your own data. It's just that it was getting stored in Meta, and they were presenting you like this is how you can use it, right? And we were, of course, we were layering it with lookalikes, lookalike 1, 2, 3. We still do it, and that's the very reason, because we had so much data, we had so much control on how we were running our campaigns earlier, and retargeting was very much effective. Now, what happened was that tracking broke, iOS update happened, GDPR came, compliances issues happened, and Meta came up with all these updates. Advantage plus audience. Even if I ask Meta to go in this direction, it will go for a period of time, but as soon as it realizes, no, there is a much better audience cluster beyond your interest, stack interest, I'll go there, right? Detailed targeting exclusion, gone. Building, hi Shubhronil, I tried building this, I thought of using this. Hi Shubhronil, you cannot use URL based audiences anymore. When I said, awesome, very good. Advantage plus detailed targeting has become mandatory. So even though if you are able to control your gender and your age, you put your stack interest, and as I said, it will go beyond it. Doesn't matter what you do, it won't listen. And then these regular updates that keep coming, performance max is taking priority, and then suddenly it comes performance max is not taking priority. And then again go back, change the whole campaign structure, restructure everything, and try to adjust with all the updates that are happening around us. But in a nutshell, what is basically happening is that we are getting impacted. The way we want to run campaigns, we are not able to, and we are not able to deliver results for our brands, right? So we need to accept this fact that the game has pretty much changed. And as Vishnu mentioned in his keynote, that we need to change, we need to adapt, and our strategy should also change with it, right? So in a simple context, we need to understand that Meta works on a feedback loop, okay? Now remove the first party data and all of it from here. What is a feedback loop? Is basically you're giving certain audience signals like Bhanu mentioned. It could be form of interest, and currently of course creative targeting plays a very important role. You're giving certain audience signals and asking Meta to find these people who are basically resonating with my creatives, right? Now when they leave the Meta's ecosystem and they're coming onto your website, they are doing some actions on your website. Doesn't matter what actions, they're doing some actions on your website. This is the whole customer journey. Now all of this basically gets captured by Meta, and the objective that we have defined for Meta, in our case mostly it's purchase, that is the most important objective that we have set in Meta's campaign, right? Now all of this data needs to go back into the system, and that is how it is powering your custom audiences and lookalike audiences. The problem happens when basically the tracking is broken, and if the tracking is broken, the data is not passing through, so basically your whole feedback loops goes for a toss. And that's where the main problem is with the old system. Now what we do with first party data is that, number one, in order to train AI, the AI the way we want the campaigns to run, we need to define custom goals for Meta. We do not go with standard purchase events, because not necessarily those standard purchase events are important for our business, and I'll explain you why. Of course, this is the most critical and the most basic part. We fix tracking with first party data, no questions asked. And of course, since we have a lot of data with us now with first party, which is beyond your just view content, add to cart, checkout and purchase, we can train and segment audiences the way we want to, okay? So let's take the first step, like fixing the tracking bit. Now you will be surprised that almost 60% of the data gets dropped. 60% of your data actually never goes into the Meta's feedback loop. Now you can understand when you're trying to scale your campaigns or suddenly your campaigns stop running, what is exactly happening is because Meta is not able to understand who are your customers to be true. And this is a bigger pain point for small and medium scale businesses. Why? Because the global brands, the volume at which they're running their campaigns, even if the data is getting dropped, the volume at which they're sending the data, Meta is still able to learn. But when you are running campaigns at a low budget, or you cannot scale aggressively, you cannot afford to lose that much data getting lost. So what we need to do, we need to ditch Shopify CAPI. We need to basically stop using the existing basic tracking mechanism, and we need to adopt the advanced first party data signals to ensure that feedback data loop is in place for all the brands and all the campaigns that we are working on. Okay. Any questions so far, or should I go to the second step? No questions. Okay. Go beyond the boring standard purchase event. Now, basically, how we need to understand this is that Meta is literally like a genie, and it will literally listen to you basis whatever goal that you are setting out for Meta. Okay. So it optimizes exactly what you tell it to. And one classic example here is that I've heard a lot of times when we do add to cart campaigns, right? We only receive add to carts. We don't receive purchase, right? And somehow we blame Meta for it. But that's how Meta's AI is actually built. It will literally get you what you want. But having said that, being performance marketers, custom events and custom goals are not a new concept. They have always been there, right? So this is an article from 2020, wherein basically John Loomer is talking about scroll depth. And I had been using this custom event for my lead generation campaigns, scroll depth plus session duration. So back then also, Meta could have been trained for the custom goals that you are setting. So again, what first party data does here is that if you use custom goals to improve your campaigns and further layer it with first party data, that's where the magic happens. Okay. Now, as I discussed, not all purchases are equal. So teach Meta what success looks like for your business. Okay. And that's what exactly I meant, that not necessarily the standard purchase action is important for your business. For example, I've always heard Meta keeps optimizing for cheap, low value purchases. Even though in my product category or inventory, I might have high value products, but somehow for some reason, most of the traffic that's coming onto my website, we are going for low value purchases. We are spending on returning customers, but we need new ones. Okay. So how to make Meta understand that stop spending on existing customers and only focus on NCAT. We want more high margin sales, but Meta doesn't get it. For some brands, we have come across that not necessarily a good ROAS is equivalent to good profits. Okay. So what do we do? How do we train Meta to actually bring in people and sell products basically that brings better profit margins for us as a business, right? And Meta's AI is struggling to scale all product categories horizontally. While yes, the golden rule is that whatever is winning, that's where the maximum focus should be. But as a brand, you might have inventory across different product categories, and you would want to basically, even if move it at a certain pace, if not like a winning product or a winning category, but still have parallel campaigns that can move that inventory. So how do we do all of this? Now, I've tried to make it as simple as possible. So business challenge is scaling high AOV products. Meta treats 2,500 and a 500 purchase the same. What do? We train Meta to prioritize high value buyers and boost to us. So basically, we create a custom event which is based on the AOV of your product. We set, okay, Meta, only get me purchases above 2,500. And we start training Meta on it. Okay, that's how we do it. Improving profit margins. So we basically feed the data while building the custom event of the bottom line profits of individual products, and we treat that when we push that custom event as the optimization objective into the campaign. So Meta will start understanding like this is the goal that I need to achieve, and that's how it will start bringing in purchases. Okay. Horizontal scaling. Create separate custom events for all of your products. Okay, all of your product categories. Sorry guys, not products, product categories. But remember one thing, you need to differentiate in a way that these customers are not the same. So okay, there has to be some differentiation between the product category. If everything is same, then Meta won't understand the difference between those two customers who are looking for those two products, right? It is simpler on Google because Google is still like the search and all is still search phrase and keyword based. Becomes difficult for Meta. That's why it's important to have these separate custom events. Identifying high intent audience in TOF campaign. Now this is a beautiful way like I have been personally using it, can be used in healthcare, can be used in lead generation, wherein you are creating a TOF custom event on scroll depth and session duration. But what we need to do here is the landing page needs to be designed in a way that you push people to read that content. It cannot be a page where people are just coming and there's not enough content and they're just literally bouncing off. Your custom event will literally fail. You need to design a page where they are spending enough time, and basis that you are trying to bring in more and more people who are actually taking interest in your product, and then of course you can build the whole funnel on MOF and BOF, targeting those people who have taken interest in your product or service. Okay, any questions? Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I'll just...
So there are two ways to connect your website to provide data to your ad manager. One is Metapixel and second is Conversions API.
Mm-hmm.
We are using Conversions API. Is the purchase data still not very accurate? This is my question. If we are using Conversions API to give the data back to ad manager, is the purchase data still not very accurate as you said?
It is not. The recommended way is, and that's, you use something like CDP. So at the end of the day, if we go deeper, Customer Labs is actually a CDP platform. There are tools in the market who can work on providing this data, but then again, you cannot build these custom events through first party data. You cannot do the audience segmentation and audience building part within those tools. Like there are tools in the market. For example, Popsicle is there, but then they do not work like CDP. What is CDP exactly doing? It is not just a CAPI. It is not just doing server to server integration of your data, right? It is not just solving the problem of the data getting dropped. What is exactly CDP doing? It is also storing this data for lifetime. For example, you want to focus on NCAC. What exactly should you do? You need to exclude purchases, lifetime purchases every day. For every time a campaign, a Meta campaign is going out finding people, you need to exclude them. Now, within Meta that is not possible because Meta cannot store that data for long. But through CDP, you can do that. Because it is also storing your data for a longer period of time because it's your own data. There are no restrictions how long can you store it. So that's how I would compare just a CAPI and probably a CDP, wherein you are doing server to server tracking. You are also doing custom events. You are also building audiences within CDP, pushing that audience data as well into Meta or Google, and then training Meta and Google's AI. That's how you should look at it.
So we are still creating the events, the custom events within Meta, but we are providing...
We are creating custom events within CDP.
Okay, all right.
And then pushing that custom event to Meta and Google.
All right.
That's how you should look at it.
Okay, thank you.
All the magic is happening within CDP, right? You are just asking Meta to be the executor.
So I'm saying those custom events can also be built through Google Tag Manager and server side. Server side could be through State or Google Cloud. So you're right, CDP helps store the data for the longer period of time. You can use Google Cloud for that as a warehouse.
You can, but then ideally, like if I am a performance marketer and I need to grow a brand from stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I would eventually need that audience data. If I want to build an LTV, I want to boost profitability, I need to use that audience data. Just solving the server to server tracking is not going to help me in the long run. Yeah.
Just one more question. Why do you think storing data more than 180 days makes sense? Because you mentioned about storing lifetime.
If I want to focus on NCAC, I only want the Meta campaigns to bring in new audiences. Forget about CAC. I will get profitability from day 2 by retaining them into my funnel. I only want to focus on CAC. I don't want Meta to keep spending on existing customers. Yeah. So, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned about horizontal scaling.
Yeah.
So, can you explain a little bit?
We have a case study. I knew this question would come. We have a case study. We'll cover this part. Okay. Here are a few steps as performance marketers and D2C founders you need to be aware before you start building. Yeah. Lead gen.
In lead generation, if your leads are converting after 6 months, 9 months, And if we want to upload that data in Meta offline, so is there any way?
So offline conversion tracking can happen, but for lead gen, I think so. We need a lead gen expert here. We are primarily into D2C.
No, suppose I want to upload the purchase data offline. Is there?
So basically, you don't need to upload anything.
Okay.
Like we used to do earlier, like we used to upload these CSV files and all. You don't need to do that.
Okay.
All of that again gets taken care by your CDP, because all data, consider from touch point 1 to the final touch point of conversion, everything that I'm doing on your website, it is getting captured. So even I can build an audience. For example, I want to do a retargeting campaign. Normally what we do is we build an audience, we start blasting discounts. The better way to actually do is to find those audiences who are closer to conversion funnel and actually use website behavior data to understand that. People who have visited your product page probably twice or thrice more than people who have just visited your page once, right? So you don't need to upload it manually. It's all happening at the back end. Everything is integrated. So what are the steps you need to consider before building these custom events? Number one, you need to understand who your customers are. Okay. Second, and what is the customer journey like? That's very important. You need to pick that data point and basically integrate it with what is the business problem that we are facing. Like I mentioned earlier, it could be a business problem, it could also be a performance campaign related problem that you are trying to solve here. Okay. You of course go with creating the custom event, but the most important part here is, guys, don't go crazy creating custom events, because the harder the custom event is, it's going to be tougher for Meta to obtain that particular result. And still at the end of the day, we need 50 conversions per week. So you need to go slow. You need to start collecting that data and then start making those experiments. So don't stop yourself from making experiments, but if you really want to utilize custom events, you need to go slow. You need to train Meta slowly. And then of course, once you have enough data, you can start layering it. You can start layering it over the period of time. Okay. This is a brand where this was the first brand I started experimenting with custom events thanks to customer labs. We stopped Shopify Cappy. We literally removed all the standard purchase events and we went on to custom events. Why? As your question was that we wanted to scale multiple product categories at the same time. So this is basically a watch brand. We had watches in both men and women. Then under men, we had watches from 0 to 2,500, 2,500 to 5,000, and then 5,000 and above. And same goes for women. Now, one of the problems that we are facing while running the campaigns that we were not able to scale all the campaigns at the same pace. Of course, there was a winning product category, but as I mentioned earlier, as a business, we didn't just want that stock not to move. We wanted the stock to move at a decent pace, right? We are a day one profitable brand, so repeat purchase rates are really low. So it was very important for us that the CAC stays consistent. Of course, it will rise when we are scaling the campaigns, but still how much can we control the CAC, right? And simultaneously do vertical scaling while we are focusing on horizontal scaling. So what did we do? I'll just move. So if you can actually see, we created mid AOV men for men watches between 2,500 to 5,000, low AOV men under 2,500, high AOV men above 5,000, mid AOV men, women and low AOV women. And you can actually see event match quality, which basically tells us the quality of the data that's coming into the system. All of them are above 9, and that's ideally should be the benchmark for any bottom of the funnel action event that you are optimizing your campaign for, right? You can actually see all of them are 9.1, 9.3, 9.3, 9.3. Now, what it basically did was that instead of training the whole ad account, that's how you used to think, we were able to train individual campaign algorithm, because each of the campaigns had their own objective. So each campaign in itself became in itself an algorithm, right? And you can see the results. So before I take you, through these numbers, we were not running multiple campaigns. We had one specific campaign for each product category. We were already doing broad. So all the variables were same. The only change that we did was we stopped using Shopify Cappy. We stopped using standard purchase event. and we were able to reduce the CAC by 23.4% and increase the ROAS by 21.9% in the first month itself. No change, no new creatives, everything remains the same, and that's how we wanted to test customer labs. So this worked for us, and since then we have been experimenting with more custom events. And also, as I mentioned, each campaign becomes an AI model itself, and this is exactly, so you can see sale mid-AOV men is the campaign. It was optimizing for mid-AOV men. 89.68% of the sales actually came for the goal that we had set in. Now there might be some spillovers that are happening, but that's okay. The main objective that we have set, for Meta, it achieved that for us, right? A lot of times, we are also using custom events for reporting purposes, okay? Because all of this data is not another analytics tool. All of these custom events can actually be imported in Meta. So you have your set columns there. So you can actually see, like Bhanu mentioned, prepaid and COD. You can actually have, like if my total orders are this much, how much are prepaid, how much are COD, and if I'm actually training the model to bring me more prepaid, over the period of time, is it increasing or not? You don't need to go on to another tool to look at that data. Yeah, the third part, smarter audience segmentation. Now earlier, we only had these options, correct? That's what we discussed in the beginning, that were the only options. And we know the answer why it's not working anymore, because tracking is broken. So and Meta is not able to fetch that data. So if the input is bad, the output for sure will be bad, right? The new way of smarter audience building, segmentation, exclusion, inclusion, high RTO rates, right? Exclude users who have multiple returns. Take your CDP, take your customer labs, integrate it with your, wherever you are getting these RTO signals. They will take that audience signals, will send it back to Meta real time, telling Meta every time an RTO happens, do not bring this audience. Do not bring this audience. वो थोड़ा time लगेगा, but Meta सीख जाएगा. ठीक है? Chronic window shoppers. So again, guys, do not take it as something that should be you need to test it for your brand. You need to do it basis the priority. You need to prioritize what's your business problem and accordingly build audiences. So for example, identify users who have visited your product multiple times but are still not purchasing, right? They are only visiting, they are not doing anything, or people who are visiting your product page and abandoning, they are literally bouncing off, and for some brands this becomes a major problem. A lot of the traffic that Meta is bringing, they're not engaging with my product page. You want to exclude it, you can exclude it, and you can train Meta to not bring in those people. Overlapping audiences across campaigns. So for example, if you want to test an incrementality, incremental sales campaign, Google say the audiences that are coming, अगर मैं उनको Meta में remarket करूँ, क्या वो incremental sales लाएंगे? You actually use your UTM to build only the audiences that have come from that particular campaign, feed it back into Meta, only those audiences, and see if they are getting results or not. So that's one very small example, but that's the best way to test and also exclude, overlapping cannibalization to stop. Low intent retargeting, I've already covered this. So instead of blasting your discounts for everyone, start something, create do your own Prime Day sale. Figure out people who are probably closer to conversion and approach them first. You will actually train Meta to spend in the right direction. So in a nutshell, while AI has taken over the targeting bit, like we covered in the morning, but there are smarter ways of actually controlling and telling Meta's AI where you need to head. And that's where, performance marketers need to think in that direction. And that will only happen once you understand the business challenge. Lastly, I think so, Bhanu covered the creative testing bit. I have covered this is literally the ad tracking infrastructure bit, but at the end of the day, these are just two pieces of the puzzle. You still need to solve the whole puzzle. And as I mentioned in the morning, you need to look at whole funnel. So this will help take us from like stage 1, 2, 3, 4, but then you have to add more layers to your funnel.